Okay, welcome back for this week 6 of AER 220. That's the Instrument Pilot Ground School. I'm Adam Stoughton. I'm your instructor. Just want to take a look at the next half of your instrument pilot pursuit. And first, I'll kind of review the items that you're going to need to complete for this week. So you're going to be reading chapter 7 and 8, or at least parts of it. You're going to have a discussion post, which includes 3 types of approaches. Now, when they say 3 types of approaches, don't think equipment types. Think of overall approach types. And you'll be looking forward to doing ground lessons 17, 18, 19, and 20 in your Jeppesen Online. Again, prioritize those over the reading. Those are going to include approach charts, approach procedures, RNAV approaches, and ILS approaches. So now, my personal opinion, this is when the course really gets interesting. Because now you're starting to take it to a point where you're going from the en route phase to the actual approach phase, which is where most of the magic occurs. There's nothing quite like breaking out at 200 feet with a half-mile visibility to see a flashing light or the rabbit down the center line of the runway, right exactly where you expect it to be, without seeing anything up until then aside from the instruments inside the cockpit. That's pretty impressive to passengers, and in my opinion, as a pilot, it's a pretty impressive feat as well. So within the content, I want you to kind of pay attention to the fact that there can be confusion arising from the different instrument approach types, as well as the different instrument approach equipment types. It can be very difficult sometimes because there appears to be a lot, but in the end, there'll be just a few that you'll primarily use. ILS is a very popular one, and with RNAV becoming such a disruptive technology in GPS, you're going to experience a lot more RNAV than, say, I did when I was learning how to fly. So, we'll teach you exactly when to use them and how to use them. Now, I want you to familiarize yourself mostly with the format of the approaches in the approach plates more than the actual details. You do have to be familiar with the details of an approach plate, but they really change depending on what airport you're at. There's a tremendous amount of variety in the plan and profile views. So you just kind of got to get used to what information is presented where. That way you can make an informed briefing prior to conducting the approach. So as you move on through the approaches, again, we'll come back to RNAV. Now, RNAV has significantly revolutionized the industry in much the same way as punching in a few letters in a GPS in a car and having it take you exactly where you want to be without you really even know how you got there. RNAV can do almost the same thing. Now, as a pilot, obviously we have to be more cognizant, have better situational awareness. We do kind of have to know where we're going, but the magic behind it is still the same. So you're going to experience a couple different types of RNAV approach in the discussion, from LPV to LNAV VNAV to even a Garmin instigated manner of LNAV plus V. It's important to know the difference between those, and I can go into a little bit more detail, and I plan on it if we do a synchronous classroom. Feel free to ask questions about it. That's why I'm here. Now, the minimum types can confuse even experienced jet pilots. And my experience in a training environment in a professional jet operator, I found that fewer than probably 75% of the pilots were that familiar with the different types of approach types for GPS with the minimums, particularly the difference between an LPV approach and an LNAV VNAV approach. So it's a pretty good idea if you make it to the point where you can explain the differences between those two and why they're different. Other than that, I look forward to working with you on this week, as well as in the airplane. In the airplane, it's very exciting because you start taking the airplane actually down to the pavement. It allows all the culminating skills learned up until now to be exercised and practiced. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight, and I'll talk to you next week.